Welcome. I'm Doug Morgan, and you're listening to Uncommon Sense, where we hunt for the truth in the topics you're not supposed to talk about, Christianity and politics. Well, everyone, it's finally Friday, and you know what that means. It is time for FOMO Friday. Yes, we don't want you to have that feeling and that fear of missing out. So what we do every Friday is we bring you the stories of the week that you should probably know a little bit about. And we have quite a few this week. There's a lot kind of going on. Some of these you may have heard about, some of you maybe not so much. But getting us started this week, we have a lot of leaders. I'm going to put leaders in air quotes. We have a lot of leaders who don't lead very well. And what they do is they have agendas and they do things that aren't necessarily the best, that have the best for the citizens in mind. And I have been touting some of this. I've been trying to expose some of it. I have warned on a number of occasions that when you have people in place that shouldn't be there, that have liberal, just crazy type agendas, that the things are going to go wrong. Things are going to eventually go bad. And we have seen this in a number of different times with different fires and different things that have happened that are a result of decisions that have made long before the tragedy happens. So, with that in mind, from a series of articles from the Daily Wire comes this very first one, and the top official at the Nashville Electric Service touted her effort to save Nashville's tree canopy last August instead of aggressively trimming trees away from power lines. Nashville Electric Service CEO Teresa Boyles Aplin's past comments have now come under scrutiny after an ice storm wrecked Nashville, bringing trees down onto roads and power lines and resulting in the worst power outage in the city's history. The Tennessee Star reported on Thursday that Boyles Aplin, who took over as CEO of the electric service in 2022, touted her tree-hugging efforts during an August appearance on Urban League Live. Ooh, that sounds like fun. on News Channel 5 Nashville. Quote, "We have customers sometimes that are concerned that we may be trimming aggressively and not taking into account the health of the trees. And that couldn't be further from the truth," she said. We do species-specific trimming that is intended to ensure the health of the tree. I think most people don't realize that we go to the depth of effort, and we have arborists on our staff that oversee the planning and the post-cutting inspections. So we take a lot of pride in making sure that we are cutting the trees in a healthy fashion. She also said that we are about the tree canopy. Yeah, that's what she said. We are about the tree canopy. We have to live here too. And so I don't want us out destroying the canopy. Really? You're destroying the canopy in town of Nashville? Okay, well, while she assured people last August that the electric service takes extreme care in its trimming, some Nashville tree service owners told the Tennessean that the Nashville Electric Service wasn't properly keeping up with tree maintenance. Quote, "If they maintain it better, there would be less power outages at the end of the day," said Lucas Crenshaw, but he also acknowledges that you can only prepare so much. Megan Crowles, another tree service owner, told the Nashville outlet, I am very confident in my opinion to say that NES does not follow the proper cutting procedures to follow the standards. Tree cutting professionals told the Tennessean that the Nashville Electric Service should expand how far it cuts trees from power lines to ensure that falling trees don't crash onto the lines. They also suggested that homeowners should trim or cut trees on their property that could pose a risk to the power lines near their homes. The Nashville Electric Service is the 11th largest public utility agency in the country. The it services the 5-member board. The service's 5-member board is appointed by the mayor and confirmed by Nashville's Metro Council. The Nashville Electric Service has been criticized over its preparedness and response to the winter storm that pounded the city with snow and ice this last weekend. Tens of thousands of Nashville residents have gone without power for 5 days as the city also faces extreme cold temperatures. Along with facing scrutiny over its tree trimming strategy, the agency has also been slammed by many residents who say there is a lack of manpower in the field to address the vast power outages. The Nashville Electric Service had around 200 linemen prepared to work on down lines, and the agency has nearly quadrupled the number of linemen in the field since the weekend, relying on help from other states. One lineman told Fox 17 Nashville that he doesn't think Nashville has deployed enough workers to address the widespread outages, adding that the city needed, quote, a minimum of 2,000 linemen. The lineman said he believes the electric company didn't want to pay union wages for outside help. Broyles Alpin released a statement on Thursday morning addressing the ongoing power outages by saying many of you are waking up to day number 5 without power, which is a significant hardship. It's our job at NES to keep the power on, and we will not stop until every household in Nashville has power again. Of course, when is that going to happen? She also said this storm was unprecedented for Nashville and our country, affecting almost half of the U.S. Its icy layers caused widespread damage across the service area to transmission lines, substations, and distribution networks. Broyles Alpin said that around 230,000 residents lost power at the peak of the outages, but it was around 230,000 homes and businesses without power at the peak, she said. Since multiple people reside in many homes, the outages likely affected far more than 230,000 people. Today, we have less than 90,000 homes remaining without electricity. But again, I mean, we're talking about days without power. NES has brought in partners from around the country to engage additional available qualified crews. The utilities CEO said that some Nashville residents should be prepared for the power outages to continue through the weekend or longer. Temperatures are expected to plunge again in the Music City this weekend with lows nearing 10 degrees. So, yeah, that is just a mess. And again, this is something that was preventable. Yes, this was a big storm. Yes, it dropped a lot of ice and snow. Yes, there was going to be power outages no matter what. But obviously, it didn't need to be to this extent. And when you get these power companies and they're relying heavily on green energy, which, only produces when the wind blows or the sun's out, and you continue to go that direction, and you continue to in this case, hug trees, right? Then you're just going to make things worse. So that's what we're seeing. Well, for our next story, this was kind of interesting, and I have some thoughts on this, but let me just bring you the story first. The Justice Department on Thursday charged a man accused of spraying Representative Illhan Omar with a substance from a syringe. Prosecutors charged Anthony Kazmierczak with a single count alleging he forcibly assaulted, opposed, impeded, intimidated, and interfered with the Congresswoman. The court filing also says that Kazmierczak told an associate years ago that somebody should kill Omar, according to NBC News. The affidavit says that authorities determined that the substance from the syringe squirted onto Omar was a mixture of water and apple cider vinegar. Authorities said that as Kazmierczak rushed the Minnesota Democrat, He appeared to say, "She's not resigning. You're splitting Minnesotans apart," according to the Associated Press. Yeah, well, at least he wasn't saying Allah Akbar, which we've heard a number of times in different attacks. The chaos situation occurred on Tuesday as Omar hosted a town hall in Minneapolis. The event was Omar's first town hall of the year. Omar was speaking from a podium when he rushed her and sprayed her with the mixture. Video shows the man then yelled and pointed at Omar while a security guard grabbed him and wrestled him down. Members of the audience were obviously yelling in shock. A woman who noticed Omar had been sprayed with an unknown liquid attempted to persuade the lawmaker to have it checked out, but Omar refused, saying, "We will continue. These effing a-holes will not get away with this," Omar stated. She later continued with the town hall. After the incident, Omar blamed, wait for it, yes, President Trump is who she blamed. Quote, "Since I've gotten into elected office, every time the president of the United States has chosen to use hateful rhetoric to talk about me and the community that I represent, my death threats skyrocket," she said. Trump suggests the attack on Omar was a setup, though. In an interview with ABC News after the incident, he said, quote, "She probably had herself sprayed, knowing her." This is what Trump said while admitting that he had not watched the video of the incident yet. Omar and the Somali community of Minnesota have been in the spotlight recently because of social service fraud that has cost taxpayers an estimated just billions of dollars. I mean, it just keeps going up more and more all the time. Much of the fraud money has been allegedly sent out of the United States to terrorists in Somalia, namely Al-Shabaab terror group. We've covered that here on the podcast multiple times. And in recent weeks, Trump has drawn attention to the fraud scandal that has rocked Minnesota and the Somali community in the Twin City area. He has also resurfaced allegations that Omar married her brother and may have committed immigration fraud. Omar has denied those allegations, though I don't know how you can deny it. I mean, he was her brother, and she did it to get him into the country. So, yeah, you can deny it all you want, but those are the facts. So, anyway, like I say, I have some thoughts on this. There's a lot of things that are just unsettling as far as it doesn't pass the smell test. Let's just put it that way. Okay. I'm not saying that it was a setup. I'm not saying that, he's not a crazy. But what I'm saying is that the way that things went down and the way that she in particular reacted to this, chasing after him, saying that you picked on the wrong woman and that my bodyguard saved you, not going to the hospital at all, not hugging people afterwards with this unknown substance on you. I mean, there's so many things about this. And then when you throw in the fact that she is, embroiled in this whole thing of how she's received millions and millions of dollars within the last year or two, and nobody knows how. She says it's from her winery, but there really isn't a winery. I mean, there's just so much. It's kind of a wag the dog type of thing. Anyway, it's going to be interesting. We'll keep our eye on it, and we'll bring you anything that breaks on there. Well, we've brought you in the past some stories about Hunter Biden. We haven't obviously had to do as many recently because the Bidens are kind of out of office now, and they can kind of do their own thing. But one of the almost the saddest thing when it came to the Bidens, one of the really sad things, and particularly Hunter Biden, was how he ghosts his daughter. The ongoing legal battle between Hunter Biden and London Roberts over their 7-year-old daughter, Navy Joan, has reached a new level of friction in an Arkansas court. The dispute centers on allegations that Biden has ghosted the child and failed to fulfill the unique terms of a 2023 settlement agreement. Lyndon Roberts recently filed to reopen the child support case, labeling Biden classless. That's nice. I mean, anyway, she labels him classless for cutting off all contact with Navy Joan in 2024. In response, Biden's legal team submitted a blunt filing asserting that his lack of communication does not constitute a violation of the law. His lawyer argued that because the court order does not explicitly mandate him to speak to or visit the child, his silence is not punishable by contempt. This follows a brief period where the two had reportedly begun building a foundation through scheduled calls. And a central pillar of their 2023 agreement was Biden's commitment to provide Navy Joan, Navy Joan with 30 of his original paintings, or the proceeds of the sale thereof. At the time, Biden's art was valued as high as $500,000 apiece at that time, and Roberts claims Biden has failed to hand over any art, while Biden's defense remains that because the settlement did not establish a specific deadline to turn over the art, he is not currently in breach of the order. So he could just do it whenever. I mean, he could be 90 years old. It doesn't matter. Meanwhile, the market value of his work has reportedly plummeted since Joe Biden left the White House. Yeah, imagine that. And it also appears that he actually didn't do the work himself. He hired some gal to do it. Roberts cited a stark contrast between Navy Joan's upbringing and that of Hunter's other children. Her filings pointed to Biden's family exclusive lifestyle, specifically a 2025 Thanksgiving gathering at Nantucket, noting that Navy Joan is the only grandchild excluded from such family activities. Roberts argued that while the court cannot force Biden to be a good dad, it can ensure the child receives the same level of financial support as her half-siblings. The relationship began in 2017, and Navy Joan was born in 2018. Although Hunter Biden initially claimed he had no memory of Roberts and denied paternity, a 2019 DNA test confirmed that he actually was the father. Despite this, though, he famously omitted Navy Joan from his 2021 memoir and successfully fought to prevent her from using the Biden last name. So, quite the outstanding father. I think if you guys are on it, you might want to nominate him for Father of the Year. I think he could probably easily get that award for how he's conducted himself when it comes to Navy Joan. Republicans actually are doing some really good things in the Senate. Senate Majority Leader John Thune announced Wednesday that Republicans intend to overhaul the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, which is the SAVE Act, to include a mandatory photo identification requirement for federal elections. This is awesome. GOP leadership says the change is intended to close what they view as a significant gap in existing election integrity laws. While the original version of the SAVE Act, which passed the House actually back in April of last year, focused primarily on requiring documentary proof of citizenship at the point of voter registration, Thune noted that it lacked a specific requirement for photo identification at the polling place. Yeah, this is kind of interesting. He said, I co-sponsored the SAFE Act in the past, and my understanding is that they are still modifying the bill. This is what Thune told reporters. He said, it includes, right now, a requirement that you be a citizen to register vote, but it doesn't include a requirement that to vote, that you be a resident. Yeah. So he says, in other words, if you're going to have what we call voter ID, photo ID, then somebody goes into the ballot box to vote. That's not currently covered in the bill. So that's being fixed and addressed, and I think the new bill that comes out will deal with that. I'm for it. I think most of our colleagues in the Senate are, is what he said. Well, the SAVE Act, originally introduced by Senator Mike Lee from Utah, would amend the National Voter Registration Act of 1993. Its core provisions currently include things like mandatory proof of citizenship, which is requiring passports and birth certificates or military records to actually register. A lot of states have, like, motor voter, where you go in, you get a driver's license, and you can get a driver's license even if you're an illegal alien. You go in, you get your license, and they automatically sign you up to register to vote. It includes roll maintenance, which is compelling states to remove non-citizens from existing voter rolls. There are blue states that have just massive amounts of non-citizens on the voter rolls. Criminal penalties is in there. This is establishing federal charges for officials who register ineligible individuals, and that would be awesome, because that would do away with a lot of this, motor voter stuff and things. So, the proposed amendment would establish a uniform photo ID requirement nationwide. Currently, voter ID laws vary by state, with 36 states requiring some form of identification and 14 states relying on signature matching or verbal assertion instead. So you just say, "Oh, I am who I am," and that's it. You don't have to prove anything. Proponents of the measure cite high public confidence in ID requirements. Recent data suggests that 80% of Americans favor photo ID laws. So this is awesome, including 97% of Republicans. I'd like to know the 3% that are. Anyway, 84% of independents, which is super high, and even 53% of Democrats. Furthermore, 77% of minority voters reportedly support such measures. Well, critics, however, argue that strict ID requirements and the elimination of mail-in registration could disproportionately burden the voters without easy access to government-issued documents. Well, despite these concerns, supporters cite a National Bureau of Economic Research study that found such laws have no statistical significance, statistical negative effect on overall voter turnout. The bill now awaits further action in the Senate, where it is expected to face a difficult path along party lines, despite Thune's confidence that most of his colleagues support the version. So anyway, love to see it. It would even, in my estimation, and I need to see it a little bit more, particularly the finished version, but it would do away with some of the mail-in only balloting that happens in some of these states. So, along the West Coast, Oregon, Washington, those states and others that basically you don't have polling places anymore. So how would you show voter ID to vote? So you would have to have something along those lines, some sort of ballots to balloting places to go to, and you couldn't just mail in your ballot, which obviously has led to really high amounts of fraud. So for our next one, this is really cool news, and it's something that I think has been needed for a very long time. Well, it is better to give the next generation ownership of America's future instead of handouts, is what President Trump told attendees at the Trump Account Summit on Wednesday. Over the next 15 years, the United States Treasury and a plethora of Fortune 500 companies will be putting about $4 trillion with a T of wealth into the hands of young Americans through Trump accounts, which are investment accounts for children under the age of 18, with a $1,000 seed investment from the government. Now, the accounts will give children ownership in the American economy from birth. And Trump accounts represent the triumph of capitalism over socialism, is what the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said. said that through Trump accounts, our president is creating an ownership economy where all citizens become shareholders in America's wealth. As it called Trump's accounts the greatest merger in world history, the merger of Wall Street and Main Street, and that it will forever change the relationship Americans have with the United States economy. Children won't be able to take money out of their accounts until they're 18. So theoretically, as America's economy grows, so will the value of the children's Trump accounts. Quote, people are going to turn to socialism if they aren't part of the system. This is what counselor to this Treasury Secretary Joe Lavorgna said, and he says that this is a way to directly get them involved and partake in the United States economy growth and prosperity. So they have no reason to move away from capitalism and move toward a subpar inferior system if they can actually benefit from capitalism. So yeah, there's some really really good things. Lot of matching stuff going on from Fortune 500 companies. Some of these are J.P. Morgan, Steak and Shake, Bank of America, Broadcom, Intel, Coinbase, Comcast, Turning Point USA. The Charles Schwab, Uber, Charter Communications, Bank of New York, State Street, MasterCard, Visa, Block, Robinhood, SoFi, Chime. Just Dell Technologies, obviously, Russell Investments, all kinds of them. And what was interesting is world famous rapper Nicki Minaj also unveiled she will be pledging money to help fund her fans' Trump accounts. So Minaj did not announce which fans will be eligible for the contribution, but she said, if I had access to something like this my whole life, would be different. So now I'm thinking about those kids who are bright and aren't born with a bank account or wealthy relatives or parents, but they have so much to offer this world. Now they can have some sort of hope. So yeah, some really neat things happening in that regard. And so if you have or know of kids in those age ranges there, I would definitely look into that, because these are tax advantage accounts. And they can be, I believe it's $5,000 a year that can be placed in there, and then particularly if you're along with some of these companies that can match some of those, this can really add up very very quickly. So, wanted to end on kind of a interesting piece that comes out of San Francisco. Bravo to San Francisco. This is an opinion piece in the New York Post. It says, bravo to San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie, who is ending a ridiculous city program that spent $5 million a year to provide booze to homeless alcoholics. Yeah, only in San Fran, right? It sounds like an insane idea to begin with, but the original thought behind the Managed Alcohol Program, or MAP, seems to have been that keeping homeless people drunk would keep them from going through withdrawals and headed to the emergency rooms. It was never a good idea to give homeless people more of the very thing that kept many of them homeless, and to provide incentives for other alcoholics to hit the streets. The program only served, get this, 55 people. That's it, 55. At an average bar tab, okay, are you ready? You got your calculator out? The average bar tab of these 55 people, $454,000 each homeless alcoholic. Yeah. Lurie's move is good for San Francisco and good for the homeless. You need help getting sober, not help staying drunk. In the background, there is a serious debate about what kinds of services to provide homeless addicts. Needle exchange programs, for example, may allow homeless people to stay hooked. And yeah, it does. But could also protect them from deadly diseases. Okay, but no, it perpetuates the problem, which they get deadly diseases from. Regardless, San Francisco has taken these programs too far. Under Lurie's predecessor, Lyndon Breed, San Francisco ran open-air, safe-use areas, as they call it, where addicts could get high under city supervision. How'd you like that job? Just watch people get high. There is a point at which tolerance is too much. The city should not be enabling addiction. The taxpayers should not be footing the bar tab. Lurie's decision to end MAP is another hopeful sign of reform. He has a long way to go before he has fixed San Francisco's problems, but he is still facing a $1 billion budget deficit, for example. But Lurie's put the interests of residents first here in this case, and he has also taken a moderate tone in disagreements with the federal government, leading to better outcomes. And Mayor Lurie has shown simple common sense in axing this alcohol for alcoholics program, a quality seen far too rarely among our local leaders. Yes, common sense everywhere is way too uncommon, and that's why we call this podcast Uncommon Sense, because what was common sense at one time is now uncommon. So anyway, would love to hear from you on this. If you want to get a hold of us, you can always do so at uncommonsensepodcast.com. Thank you very much for listening.
This podcast is a production of Morganite Communications.